Good morning, happy Sunday. I was intending for this week's YouTube video to be an introduction to this little patchy pony over here. However, we have had a week of quite a lot of rain and wind. It just hasn't been great recording conditions to sit down and tell his story and introduce you all to him properly. So I am instead coming at you with a track update. Which I'm hoping will still be interesting for those of you who have been following my journey to creating what I'm hoping will be our perfect Paddock Paradise, because quite a lot has changed, and yeah, I thought it was about time for an update on how the project is going since I've stopped kind of uploading my weekly track update videos. So this is how the track looks currently, just to give you a quick overview. Now we've got Toby over there on the track middle. Initially my idea was not to graze the track middle, but it has happened and I'll explain that further along in the video. And then we still have Ollie and Reggie on our mini track, which is where they started. However, we have started grazing them out onto the main track. So if I start here, this is one side of our track, and as you can see it's looking all a little bit overgrown down there, but not so overgrown here. Now, I actually originally had Toby, I think you'll have seen in my Toby vlog of picking him up, I explained that he had like a strip of the middle down here and then out onto the main track, so that he could interact with these guys because they were just on the mini track, and the plan was that Toby would graze ahead of them and he would graze down the areas of the main track that my boys would then move on to, and he would then go on to the next piece and then they would follow him, and he would graze it down first because he's used to being on grass, whereas unfortunately Reggie has EMS, so ideally, although it's longer, older grass, and there's, as I'm learning, not that much interest for it, because they're still eating lots of hay instead of eating lots of grass, which to be fair is good for their health. But yeah, the idea was that he would graze it down first, however it just didn't end up happening. He was quite worried about going down there on his own, and he was worried by the sheep, and that's okay. So we've changed the plans and he is on the track middle. And that, to be honest, kind of works because it means that as my guys, although they're doing the main bit of the grazing, or they were, we've kind of changed the plan again, but they were doing the main bit of grazing on the track middle, the main track. He had grazed it down quite a bit, so that was helpful, but it just means that he can follow them around the track, which is really helpful for bonding. It's kind of more, it allows him to have more interaction with them than I've ever had when bonding horses, because he can literally follow them all the way around the track, interact with them all the way over the fence, and it's almost like they're in together without being in together, whereas normally you would have horses, you know, in two adjoining paddocks. They can get a lot of distance from each other, and although they can move away from each other and they are getting on really, really well, it just means that he's so much more in with them, like they're literally walking around up and down the fencing grazing together, and it's so lovely to see. So if we go back to our mini track, the idea originally was to take the mini track out and just have it as a horseshoe shape going straight onto that side, and to take this bit out and use it as track middle. However, once I got Toby, I realised I wanted them to have as much interaction as possible, and my guys are always going to come back up here because it's where their hay is, it's where their water is, it's where their shelter is, which means that they, even if they do get some distance from him down there, which to be honest isn't happening, he is really following them, which is nice, they, you know, will still interact along this line for bonding and interaction and social sake. So I have actually kept the mini track in for now, which actually is just working really nicely. So this will go once the whole track is fenced off, / when he goes in with them, because I do like them having this line and being able to chat together. They spend a lot of time stood chatting over this line, so it's really nice to keep for now. So yeah, to start with this bit, I did try graze them down it, however it was so overrun with docks that they just really didn't want to have to sift through the docks to get to the grass. Slightly lazy of them, but fair enough. So I took them off this area. I was going to have them going down this way and Toby going down that way until they met in the middle, and then they could obviously interact here, but they just did not want to do that. So we've decided to strim this area instead. It will now be the last piece that gets grazed off because I want to strim it, and then we'll have to rake it all to make sure that there's no fermented plants that the horses can eat, because that would be dangerous to them. But it has kind of, like I say, been a bit of a blessing in disguise, in that now he can follow them around the track, and that's working really nicely. So the mini track is pretty much the same as it was. We've got our scratching brush, we've got our hay mangers, obviously the shelter and the shed, and then water. So if we go down here, I haven't put much enrichment out at the minute just because a lot of it is stuff that is sort of not permanent, but I want to put some posts in and stuff. So I'm going to wait until they've flattened the ground down, grazed it down, and then put my enrichment in, just so that I'm not hammering things in and having to move them. So yeah, Toby is now on the track middle. This, you know, sacrificing it, the idea was that they would graze this over the winter. That would have been helpful with the hay bill, but I would much rather he had the social opportunities that he's now getting from being on here. And also, to be honest, I think it did just need grazing down because there was ticks on it and stuff, and I decided it would be much easier to graze it off and start again. It was really overrun. I'd like to be able to start controlling some invasive species with strimming and stuff, and I can't do that while the grass is tall. And you know, there's stuff that I don't want to be throwing seeds everywhere. So it just makes sense to graze it down, start to manage it better, and start again. So if we follow our mini track down, the boys are now about halfway onto the main track, which is very exciting. It's all happening a lot faster than I thought because the grass, a lot of it is unpalatable to them, which is a little bit frustrating because I don't want to spray the land or anything like that, so I need to find some natural ways of getting rid of it without ruining my grass. Hi Toby. Toby's settling in really well, by the way. He's a really happy boy and he's a really lovely boy. But yeah, they now have this clearing. So eventually this will be a bit of a loafing area. I'm going to have some hay stations down here because it's nice and open. It's also got some nice shelter. It's got an ash tree there. It's just a nice area for a loafing area. We've then got this area. It goes down here. They've made a bit of a rolling pit there, which is really nice for them. Maintaining the blackberries is not going to be easy. But I am going to bring the mini strimmer down and do some of that because I don't want to bring the big petrol one in anymore. I think they'll be terrified of it. So I need to get that down and start managing this again and raking it all up. Which brings us to where the boys are now. So this is about halfway around the track, as you can see. And they've got this big section of grass. But as you can see, there's a lot of false oat grass and it's mature enough that the horses don't really want it. So I'm either betting on them eating it anyway because it is safe to eat, they just don't tend to like it, or them trampling it down, or me somehow being able to strim it without destroying the grass underneath once they've grazed it off, because as you can see they are doing grazing off, but some of the grass underneath is dead from it being so overgrown, and they're nowhere near as interested in this grass as I thought they would be. They are eating it, but just at a lot slower rate, and they are actually preferring their very tasty hay, so a bit frustrating like I say, but not the end of the world. So how I'm working this is, this fence line here is just getting moved back a section every few days. I'm giving them bigger sections than I normally would. I started off very small and they just were not interested, so I started giving them bigger sections because I know they're not going to gorge it. And start piling weight on or risk laminitis or whatever because of the way I've seen them graze it. But giving them the bigger section allows them to pick through what they want, essentially, which they're doing very slowly. They've been on this for quite a few days now and it's still quite full of grass. And then how I am then working Toby is I'm cutting little gates into the track middle, and he then has a section ahead of them, so you can see there's another fence line up here. So he's got the section ahead so that he can start doing some grazing on there for me to then move these guys onto it, and there's less grass for them to help with their health. So it also just means more socialisation, which is really nice and adds a bit of enrichment in terms of there's more for him to explore, they're exploring the track more. So yeah, for now this is working really well, other than the fact that they're not too interested in some of the false oat grass. But that is how we will go. Toby will go on the section ahead, and then I'll just gradually move each of them further and further back until eventually we're up there on the end of the track. So that's pretty much my track update. We don't have too many plans at the moment other than just trying to graze it off, and then we'll start to potentially also look at building some more hay boxes because I want as many hay stations as possible, and potentially buying some hay toys and stuff in. I've got quite a lot already, but there's some more that I would like. And also, yeah, starting to plan some enrichment projects because there's quite a few things that I would like to make ready for when the track is ready. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at the minute. with the track. I'm happy with how the progress is going. It's been a little bit stressful, like I say, with trying to work out how to control certain species and get it all grazed down in a way that's safe and healthy for them, and making sure that, you know, everything works. But I think it's going okay, and it's nice to finally see this area not an overgrown mess, and usable, and to a point where I'm starting to think about, you know, moving things and starting to build my track how I want it long term. So yes, I will keep you all updated on our progress with the track as things go along. My next track update will probably be when they're on the whole track. I think Toby will probably still be on the middle and the boys will probably still be on the outside, because I do think it's going to take a while to bond them just because of their issues around food. I want to do everything safely. I want them to have a lot of time to get to know each other, because Ollie is anxious around new horses. He's really been trying to make friends with Toby, bless him, but equally he's very anxious still, so I think it'll take a while. But yeah, I'll keep you all updated. I'll hopefully have some enrichment DIYs up soon, an introduction to Toby, and I've got lots and lots of behavioural and training content to come. So I'm really excited to get going again with the YouTube channel, and hopefully to actually stay consistent with it this time, now that life is a little bit less busy in terms of I'm not doing hard work on a Paddock Paradise every single day. We're just kind of rolling along and doing things as needed now. So yeah, hopefully this will inspire somebody to build a track themselves, and can show them that actually, even if you take a really overgrown piece of grassy land and you have compromised horses, it is possible to safely and effectively create your Paddock Paradise, even though when you first come in it's really overwhelming and you feel like it's never going to look anything like. I look back on where we started and realise that this project has actually been a massive success, and I'm hopefully going to have 3 very happy horses on this land.